In the Brian Kohberger case, Brian Entin's interview with Alivea Goncalves and some extremely insightful viewer comments.
And there's a new restitution hearing on November 5th.
You lost. And you know what you did.
In the Brian Kohberger Idaho 4 case, we thought we were going to walk away after he pled guilty, but we can't. Not only because there are so many unanswered questions in all of the documents, but also viewers have brought up a lot of great comments. We're going to take a look at those. I'm attorney Andrew Myers. This is About the Law. Joining me is California attorney Yolie Medina.
Hi
Yolie,
there.
how are you today?
I'm fine. I'm not in my usual place, so bear with me.
Yeah, you don't have the books behind you.
No.
If I ask you a question that it requires you to look at the law books, what are you going to do?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. All right.
Defer.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. That's what we attorneys like to do. So where to start? I guess, do you want to start with the restitution hearing, or should I start with my impressions of Brian Entin's interview with Olivia Goncalves?
Let's start with the interview.
All right. Brian Entin, who I like. He's a good reporter. I've watched him. A lot of people down in the comments always say, you got to watch this, you got to watch that, you got to watch the other thing. Don't ever assume we don't. I'm a child of the media. My undergraduate degree is in media. My undergraduate degree came to me in Boston on media studies and mass media. So I watch everything. Don't ever assume that I don't watch everything. But a lot of viewers said, you've got to watch Brian Entin's interview with Olivia Goncalves. Olivia, of course, being the sister of Kaylee Goncalves. Olivia showed herself to be an extremely bright woman, the way she handled the case all along. She went and got videos in the beginning. And then in the end, her statement during the sentencing hearing was just brilliant. It stood out. I don't care what you think about this case. She's a very articulate woman, and she had a few things to say to Mr. Kohberger. So I start by, giving her a heck of a lot of credit for being having so much poise and intelligence and articulation. And she wanted to go talk to Bill Thompson and the law enforcement in Idaho by herself. I mean, she respects her parents, but they're her parents, and she's her. She's an adult young woman. And so she wanted to go talk to them. So she went and she talked to Bill Thompson and people they actually went to the Idaho State Police headquarters in one of their barracks. And she comes away and she gets interviewed by Brian Entin. That's fine. That's okay. But it's all available online, so you can take a look at it. Some of the first things that were of note to me, and I'm going to look at my notes so I, accurately portray the whole thing. She did have her attorney there. Why did she have her attorney there? I asked you, Yolie, this week when we were talking about this episode, and you told me the answer to this question. But my question was, why'd she have her attorney there early on? I believe her family filed a notice that they were going to sue the state of Idaho. Is that why she had her attorney there?
So no, I don't believe that she had her attorney there for those purposes of her family wanting to file a lawsuit, because I think that time has expired. The government claim was filed in May of 2023, I believe, and they have 2 years according to Idaho law. So it's probably expired. However, there might be an issue regarding tolling during the time that the case was going on, Brian Kohberger's case. And tolling would mean that the time kind of suspends while the criminal case is going on. But I don't know the answer to that. And probably an Idaho attorney would know, civil attorney. So I don't think it was for that reason. Maybe she just felt more comfortable with an attorney there. Maybe she doesn't trust the cops. I don't know.
Well, she did make some comments about how, even though she's made peace with it now at this point, the family obviously was not happy with the way the whole thing proceeded during the course of the years between November 13th of 2022 and the time that Mr. Kohberger pled guilty. So she said that, yeah, there were some issues. She wished that there had not been a gag order, or that the law enforcement had been a little bit more forthcoming with them during the pendency of the whole thing. So she may well have had an attorney with her just to, Bill Thompson was there, and I'll say it, that Thompson was somewhat arrogant during the pendency of the whole thing. He was standoffish. He was, yes, I understand that there was a non-dissemination order. I understand that. But his demeanor during the whole thing is, don't look at my paper. And he just was a little bit arrogant about it. I think he relished the fact that he could be clever and talk above everybody. So she may well have taken it. I don't know. This is my speculation, but she may well have wanted an attorney there so Thompson couldn't get away with his usual BS. I don't know. That
I
is
don't
just
know.
me.
Yeah, I mean, it could be she just doesn't trust. Yeah, I mean, she doesn't want the wool pulled over her eyes, and she wants to have somebody there that's going to explain things to her, possibly. I don't know. That was. I mean, maybe it was just for comfort, to have an attorney there for comfort, because she did see a redacted. Maddie was redacted, but she did see the photo, the crime scene photo of her sister Kaylee, because she didn't want it to possibly come out and be shocked by it, and she took it into her own hands to go in there and see the photograph.
That must have been
I believe-
awful.
Huh?
That must have been awful.
Oh,
And she said that it was awful. And she said,
So-
yeah, like you just said, she didn't want to see it the first time in the media, so she exposed herself to that. And I
Yeah,
can't imagine
so-
that. I can't imagine that. My brother came home from Vietnam so shot up that we could not have a viewing. His body was shipped home from Vietnam in a plastic bag, and so we never saw it. And I think
Oh my
I don't
God.
think I could have handled that, nor could my parents have. So
yeah.
in any
and-
event, getting back to the subject, she said that a lot of her questions were answered. It doesn't mean that more won't come up as more comes out. She said that a lot of her questions, she didn't say all of her questions were answered. She said a lot of her questions were answered. And it doesn't mean that more won't come up as time comes out. She kind of castigated the process the court, those are my words, is taking. What she did say is that the documents are coming out at a very, very slow, and she did use the words snail's pace, and that it could take years. And remember, I did that episode a few weeks ago where I actually did the calculation based on the first couple of months, that it's going to take until the end of 2027 to get all the documents out. So,
yeah. And
she-
one
Go ahead.
thing about it is that it just shows that she still has questions. She still had questions and probably is going to have more questions. And that's not even including questions that her parents may have. You know what I mean? I mean, her parents, it just seems like this whole thing just happened so sudden. He pled guilty, and we were, a lot of things unanswered. And now, as things are coming out, they're coming out backward. They're coming out from the most
Right.
recent.
right.
And so you'll get a document, but you really can't make sense of it until you get the original motion. You'll get like an objection to something, but you don't have the motion that they're objecting to, and it makes it very hard to follow.
Well, and the other thing is, one of the things that Olivia said towards the end of her interview with Brian Entin was that someday, might be quite a number of years from now, she would like to be the source of information, and she would like to have the website. And she did say 10 years, 20 years from now, people will look back, and she wants to have the source of information, website or whatever. But the problem that I would have with her doing that is, I mean, she should do whatever she wants. She should write a book. She should do a slideshow. She should go around the country and speak because she's an eloquent, articulate young woman. But the documents are contradictory. We've talked about that. Gone through many of the documents, including the one or the ones in which Bethany said she saw flashes and she heard a bang like a firework. And that's never been reckoned with what law enforcement told us in the PCA, which we now know was highly inaccurate. So I'd sure love to see what she does, but it's not going to answer questions. It's going to create more questions.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that she said that she doesn't want to say that it's closure, but it was helpful to have these pieces put together for her. And that reminded me of a case I've talked about a number of times where the case of James Cater in Massachusetts, where he was tried 4 times. He was tried 4 times and finally found guilty of the M of a little 15-year-old girl. And the mother was asked after the 4th trial, and I think 22 different issues on appeal, well, aren't you happy that there's closure now? There's no closure. She said there's no closure. Her little 15-year-old girl would have been in her 30s by then, and she said no. There's no such thing as closure. So she did say that. She didn't want to say it's closure, but it was helpful. And it also reminded me of another case that was tried 4 times, and it's a Netflix series called Trial 4 with the incredibly articulate attorney Rosemary Scapicchio. And if anybody hasn't seen Trial 4, they should watch it.
I'll have to watch it.
It's
I'll have to
excellent.
watch it. Trial 4.
And
Okay.
if you think poorly of us here in Massachusetts, you're not going to think any better of us. In any event, she said that she didn't learn in her talk with Bill Thompson and the Idaho State Police. She still, it's up in the air. What was Kohberger's, if he's the one that did it, what was his motive? She said, I've never cared about the why. I've always known that the why would not make sense. And so...
Yeah, well, and I think a part of what she was doing is in some way rationalizing things in her head to make sense of it. There were wounds, description of the wounds and the exhibit list that just came out, one of the state's exhibit list. Not the actual autopsy report, but just the wounds that they had. And they seem to have had, wounds on their hands, arms. And it seems that they were not sleeping and when they were,
No.
unalived.
No.
And, sometimes you hear the family say, well, Olivia's family, that they were unalived while they were sleeping. And it's kind of sad because I think in their mind, they have a hard time just coming to grips with the fact that the victims, their family members probably fought. And it's horrible. It's horrible. But, one thing she said, Olivia said, that some of the wounds may have been done after the passing of of her sister. And in one, I don't know if you've seen a TikTok video, but she did a TikTok video, a brief one, where she said that the wounds were experimental. And to me, that's a strange way to describe.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I did not see that. Maybe I don't watch everything like I said before.
No,
but
well, this is on TikTok and it was on YouTube, but some creators showed that video, and that was a strange one for me because, things, like you say, things don't line up with there are things that aren't addressed, like that big bang, the flash and the bang. Certain, and the knife. And apparently, I don't know if you've seen Emily Alant's latest interview
No,
that
I
came
have
out.
not.
Okay,
I'll have to watch that for our next episode.
Yes, you'll have to watch that. So there are some things that come out, and we're getting on both sides. We're getting it from the Moscow PD and the court. They're slowly releasing things, and it's hard to make. Things don't line up. And I'm sure the family, they're left. If this is how we feel, or a certain part of the true crime community feels, imagine how the family must feel.
No, I can't.
there are other people who can just say he pled guilty, forget it, he's guilty. And he may be, he pled guilty, but there's still some unanswered questions. And the process of this whole court process has been a nightmare. I mean,
has been a
to
big
follow. And
nightmare.
even still having to go backwards with these documents, the releasing of the most recent, it's wild.
It is wild. One of the other things that Olivia commented about, which makes little or no sense at all to me, is that she said one of the things that she was told that made more sense and helped her put it all together in her head was that they showed her the data that confirmed that he, whoever he is, that he went by the house on 23 occasions, that they told her and showed her that he went by the house on 23 occasions. Well, that's not what they said in the probable cause affidavit. And in other documents, it said that his cell phone pinged a cell tower that also served 1122 King Road. Those are two very different things because the range of cell towers is such that you could be in that town going to the restaurant, the McDonald's, the Walmart, wherever, and that may well ping the same cell tower. So we have never been told that he actually was at the premises 23 times. That's not in any document. That's
No,
nowhere.
and in fact, Bill Thompson said that he couldn't place him. They couldn't place him ever being at that house.
So that's a fact. That's an alleged fact that needs to be checked. And I'm not blaming Olivia again, but that's
it's her
that's something
understanding.
that we have a right to know. I'm sorry?
Right. It's Olivia's understanding, and like I say, she's trying to make sense of it in her head, and she has an emotional connection to Kaylee. So she's trying to make sense of it in her head. And so that's why I say sometimes the things that the family say are not accurate, but it's their experience and they're having to live with this. So they, people will try to make it make sense. But for us who are not emotionally attached and we look at things objectively, the story just doesn't, it doesn't add up. The more that comes out, the more questions it seems people are having.
No, I
And-
agree 100%. And one of the questions I think that I had at least was addressed by Olivia. And that is, remember, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we talked about the fact that Amanda Kohberger, Brian's sister, was on the witness list. And why would the prosecution put her on the witness list? Well, I said, well, because she's bluffing. And other people said, oh, no, she was going to talk about was it her watch or her cell phone that he took, way back in 2014. And she was going, no. What Olivia says is that she believes from what she took away was that the reason the prosecution wanted to put Brian Kohberger's sister Amanda on the stand was because she allegedly observed Brian Kohberger with the knife. That's what.
I mean, it's circumstantial evidence that he had the knife if that's what she was going to testify to. But it was a family account, Amazon family account. And by the way, have you seen the receipt for the Amazon purchase of the knife? I haven't seen it.
I saw something, but I can't remember. I saw something. Didn't they show us that early on?
No, they show us receipts for other things, but I may be mistaken. Anyway, I'm going off course here.
No,
But-
you're not. No, that's a good question. I'll have to check that and talk about it in a future episode because I honestly don't know I'm sure our commenters, as they always do, they'll correct us.
It's hard to remember everything that's like all the information accurately. So sometimes people misspeak and it's not they're lying. It's that, they might misremember something because there's a whole lot of stuff that's coming out.
If our fine commenters want to correct me, don't say, you're an idiot. How can you be a lawyer? I hear that all. How can you be a lawyer if you...
Oh my
Cool
God.
it. Chill. Tell if you have the answer to that question, give us the document number or an episode number or a day of a hearing that I can refer to. That would be helpful. But if you're just going to call me an idiot, Well, it adds to our engagement and our standing with the algorithm, so have at it. The final issue here, though, to be serious, the final issue is I think Brian Entin needs to go back to a legal seminar, because based on a comment that Olivia made when, she expressed her disgust with there are so many conspiracies online. I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of it. I could puke is what she said, and that's fine. But instead of, discussing it intelligently, what Brian Entin said was, some of these people with their conspiracy theories, it's like a hobby. I mean, the guy confessed. And I think, Mr. Entin, you need to go back to school, because Bryan Kohberger didn't technically confess. What he did is he pleaded guilty. Am I picking nits? No, I'm not, because go to Black's Law Dictionary, which is an authoritative source for all attorneys all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. SCOTUS cites Black's Law Dictionary all the time on finer points of law. And in a previous episode, I pointed out the difference between a guilty plea and a confession. A confession is a statement regarding the crime, which includes such details as make it clear that the confession is not being made by one who is simply making it for unknown reasons. A confession includes details such that it is confirmed without question that the person is being accurate and truthful and was in fact there. Because people do make false confessions. And in this case, there was no allocution.
Yeah.
There was no confession. There were no details made. And Mr. Kohberger, if you look at the forms, which we've looked at back this summer, back in July and August, when the documents were placed in the court docket, they're yes, no, no, yes, signature, number 5, yes. And so, no, Mr. Entin, you're dead wrong about that. And you're a good reporter. I like you. I watch your episodes a lot. But in this, you're dead wrong. And you should have done your research, and you should go to Black's Law Dictionary. There was never a confession in this case.
No. He pled guilty, and under the law, he's guilty because he pled guilty. But in terms of an explanation of the crime, we have nothing. That's why Olivia is trying to get answers.
And the other issue I had with that was that they referred to, down in the tunnels. Well, this channel has never endorsed the tunnel. So a propaganda technique is to overstate what your opposition has said. If your opposition says this, you move it over there and exaggerate it. And that's an exaggeration because, there's tunnels people out there. And there's, all kinds of conspiracy theories out there, but many YouTubers are not like that. We've never gone down the tunnels with the conspiracy theories. All we're doing is looking at the available information that the court has released and saying there are questions. And there's a big difference between saying it was in the tunnels or it was, whatever. There's a big difference between making up conspiracies and legitimate, intelligent people, like many other channels. I do watch them. Many other channels have intelligent questions. And so I'm not going to say I'm offended, because I don't think Entin could say anything that offends me. I really could care less. But if he's not going to check things out, this is not a conspiracy channel. We've said that many times. This isn't and Lainey and I used to have fun with that, saying it's not, and we would actually run a video of a tunnel. So there's a big difference. There's a big difference between a tunnel conspiracy and simply asking legitimate questions, of which there are many.
Yes, there are. And, it's not like in the olden days, like in the O.J. Simpson case. So my mom and I could sit in the back patio and talk. We could come up with all kinds of theories, about who was involved and what happened. And, and that's a natural thing to do. And then when there's a non-dissemination order, a gag order, well, you're left in the dark. So what are you going to do? Speculate. And I mean, there is nothing wrong with that because it's a human nature. And the gag order kind of made people think, speak about things that they speculated about. And I have speculated, and I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, but I'm also a lawyer. So I know, and nobody wants to hurt the families. I don't think anybody wants to hurt
No,
the
of course
families.
not. No, of course not.
And I think deep down inside they want answers too. They want to know that it's Bryan Kohberger who did this, and they know it only because he pled guilty, which is fine. But there's still answers that remain and that are floating around, and there's going to be more when all these other more interviews come out, like Emily Allant, and we can talk about that on a different show. But yeah, you're going to have questions, and people speculate. So it's not done to be harmful. It's part of the First Amendment right to free speech and thoughts, and and now with social media, it's become a wider thing. It's not like sitting in your backyard talking to your mom about O.J. Simpson and all what could have happened and who's involved, and I mean, it's just and people are going to speculate.
They are, yeah. And when we speculate, at least I'll speak for myself. When I do deviate off of the facts that are in documents, I'll say, this is speculation. I think I did that early in this episode. I'll say, this is my speculation, but my speculation is based on, facts or statements. And if you want to see a real conspiracy, take a look at the probable cause affidavit, because there are just so many mistruths in there. One of them, an alleged mistruth, was they, at the top of one page, and I forget which one it is, they say, well, we were going to look into the possibility of stalking. Then they go into a whole bunch of different paragraphs, and they move on without a conclusion. Now, that's not legal writing. In legal writing, you state, an issue, you look at the facts, and then you have analysis and conclusion. And the probable cause affidavit didn't do that at all. They just kind of threw this word speculation, or excuse me, they just kind of threw this word stalking in at the top of the page, talked a little bit, and then moved on. So if you want to see a conspiracy, take a look at that.
And they also put words in Dylan's mouth, I believe, because so far, based on what I've seen regarding her statements, she never said she was in a frozen shock phase.
No.
And he put that in quotations, if I'm not mistaken. I may be mistaken, and please correct me. But I think part of it was in quotations, and she never specifically stated that.
Well, they were up all night, not all night, but they were up quite a bit texting, and she was editing things on her phone, and then deleting things on her phone and calling people, walking by Xana and seeing Xana on the floor. And there's a disconnect from her seeing Xana on the floor and thinking that she was just passed out. And the condition that Xana's body was in, she would have had to have known something awful happened. So
yeah,
the whole thing is hard to believe. The
and
whole
I
thing
think
is hard.
the lights were on. I don't know. I can't remember now, but it seemed like the lights were on, because I heard somewhere that the lights were on, and they were saying that he was waiting for everybody, that the car was circling, waiting for the lights to go off. But I don't believe the lights ever went off. And even the Molly McDaniels, or I forget her last name, sorry.
McDaniel. We're going to get it in the comments section. We are going to get it in the comments section, but we all know who you're talking about.
Molly.
Molly.
She saw somebody initially in the reports. She said that she saw somebody up in the third floor bathroom with dark long hair that was ducking. Okay, so the lights were on at 4 a.m. So this theory that the car was circling, waiting for the lights to go off so that he could go in there and unalive them in their sleep doesn't make sense.
No, makes no sense. So if there's a conspiracy, don't blame us. We never went into the tunnels. Look at law enforcement statements, which made no sense. Now, something else that makes no sense to me at all is there's some kind of a battle going on now, and you're more on top of this than I am. There's some kind of a battle going on now regarding Kohberger's restitution. What?
Right. Yeah, I thought they had agreed to this before.
Me too.
But if you actually look at the documents, the stipulation that he stipulated to, it was for Maddie. I'm sorry, excuse me. The stipulation that he stipulated to was for the Chapins and for Xana, and then the victim's witness fund. There was certain amounts. And that was the stipulation. Then later, the prosecution filed additional restitution requests for the Goncalves family and Maddie's family, Kaylee and Maddie's family. And so the defense objected to it, and they objected to it because, well, Brian has no money, he's not going to get any money. I mean, he might get some money in jail. I mean, I don't know, in prison. But then they also objected to it because the GoFundMe's for the Goncalves and Maddie Mogen's family, there were multiple GoFundMe's, and supposedly they raised, thousands of dollars, and that should negate Bryan Kohberger from having to pay restitution. I don't know. And there's a hearing now set for this, and it's going to be by Zoom. And I'm just thinking, like, what? This seems strange. That's all I'll say.
It seems really strange to me because I thought that these financial issues were resolved in the final sentencing, and then there was another issue about how much he was going to be ordered to pay. So for it to be brought up again, my initial knee-jerk reaction, which may be wrong, has been before, and I've been honest about that and not speculated, but my initial response was, the guy is in prison for the rest of his life. And it's not like he's going to get a job. And I don't know what they do in Idaho. I don't think you make that much money, if any at all, stamping out license plates. I had a client incarcerated at one time who worked in the laundry of the facility and made a little bit of money, enough money, sadly, to buy cigarettes and candy bars and things like that. But I mean, it's chump change. You work all day in the laundry. And again, I don't know what Kohberger's arrangement is, but you work all day in the laundry and you get pennies. It's so, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, is it because they think that maybe he may be getting a book deal or something? But it's very strange to me that this would be a fight at the end of the day where they're going to have a hearing, because it's true, he's not going to be working anymore. Like, he doesn't have a job. He's just in prison, and whatever he gets is chump change. So I'm not sure, and I'm not sure why the GoFundMe's would have any relevance. I mean, those were private. This is restitution that is ordered by the court, and that's what was previously ordered, and it was all agreed to, I thought, but maybe not.
Yeah, I did too. Remember, we used to have an attorney from Washington State who also knew Idaho law fairly well. We used to have him as a regular guest here. Maybe we should get him back. I've been thinking about him lately. And he said that the law in Idaho they have a son of Sam law or something similar. It's not written the same way, but the effect is the same, that a prisoner who has been convicted of a crime may not profit from a book. Now, Catherine Ramsland, his teacher, who teaches criminology and psychology at DeSales University in Pennsylvania, she has expressed a true interest in writing about him. She was the authority that wrote the book about BTK, and so she's expressed an interest in writing about him. But I wouldn't think that Idaho law would permit the profits to go to him.
There's a statute. It's not a son of Sam law, and it's
No.
written very differently, and people will
Yes.
say there is no son of Sam law in Idaho, and
Right,
that's
I
true.
know.
But there is something, and I remember that show where we did with him where he talked about it, and it's not likely that he's going to be able to profit from anything. So I don't know. Well, and I mean, this restitution hearing, I just can imagine it in my head, and it's like, what is the judge going to do? Is he going to order it, or because the way it's phrased, it's additional restitution. So I don't know. I really don't know. And
I don't know. It's just it's quizzical that somebody that's in jail for life. One comment that I heard elsewhere was that there's all kinds of crazy people out there. Charles Manson and Ted Bundy were both married in jail. I mean, some people, there are crazy people out there that for whatever reason.
The Menendez brothers were married.
For some reason, and I know I'm going to get comments down here for calling them crazy, but there are crazy people down there that somehow
Down
feel
where?
some sort of they feel
Yeah.
affection or support or anxiety or some connection to certain people that are in prison. So not only will they try and have a physical, at least letter writing or email writing relationship with them, but they'll also give them money. And so one comment I heard, don't know if it rises to the level of a court hearing, is that if people start giving him money, they shouldn't be allowed to, and that should be scooped up and given to the families.
Oh,
Maybe,
well,
I don't know.
a possibility. I mean,
So
there are people who do that.
yeah.
I don't know.
So
We'll have to see.
yeah, one of my closing thoughts would be if there's anybody out there that knows, not that they've heard or not that their uncles, brothers, son-in-laws, girlfriends, friend told them, if somebody knows what goes on in the Idaho penitentiary with respect to what work they are allowed to do and what kind of a salary or money they're allowed to make. That'll be, and yes, I have done some research. So don't tell me do your research, because I've done a bunch of research. I've actually found some YouTubes and articles on what goes on in the prisons, and it's interesting. But I don't have that answer. I don't have that answered. Why don't we go to our brilliant commenters, because they have some brilliant comments this week.
Okay, so the first one is from Diane Boyd. And she says, "Thank you so much for finally seeing that there is so much wrong in Idaho. The documents make it more clear that there were more suspects than BK. There actually was no evidence that Brian was even there, no knife, no sheath, no DNA, except what was said was on the magic sheath. The more these creators keep digging and tearing these documents apart, even with the timeline being off, there needs to be a lawyer that will stand up and do the right thing. There is a video of DM pulling in at 6:30 a.m. next to the fence at LL, which is Linda Lane.
Linda Lane, yeah.
She parks, gets something out of her back seat that looks like Murphy, and walks in the direction of 1122. 8-hour delay was a lie. Snapchat was going wild at 8 a.m. to students telling about the killings and describing it. Go back to the beginning."
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I will tell you that I have seen a video that she describes. I have to take a better look at it because there is a video of what she's describing. I just didn't look at it hard enough to determine who it was or what,
Yeah, if you find it, let me know or link it to me. If you
Yeah,
find
I'll send it
link
to you because
me.
I did see that. And it was in passing while I was working and I had YouTube on, and then I saw it in passing and I thought, oh yeah, there is a person. And this is at 6:30 in the morning, but I didn't focus on it. So I do remember seeing that.
And this goes to a point that you made earlier, and that is that we're getting the documents in reverse order. They're starting at the end and going backwards. And by my calculations, it's going to take them until the end of December in 2027. So when this commenter says go back to the beginning, we want to go back to the beginning, but I hope you have a lot of patience, dear number 5 commenter, because it's going to take a while, and we're not going to walk away from this case. As I've said before, we have asked our viewers in past episodes, if you want us, he pled guilty. If you want us to just walk away, we'll do it. But we asked, and I didn't calculate, but I think a really good, reasonable speculation would be that 90 or 95% of our viewers said, by all means, do not walk away. Like this one right here. She says, "Thank you so much for finally seeing." And so our commenters, anyhow, want us to keep going. Number 4 is Karen Best. I've often wondered if BK was working with law enforcement as a drug informant or something similar, and that was the reason for so many redactions and sealed documents. Okay, this is speculation, but it is based on fact. So Karen Best is saying something that I've actually thought myself in the past. We're not saying this is a fact, but is it speculation? Okay, but it's not really a conspiracy theory because there's some basis in some of the things that we've seen and heard that gives Karen every right to have these thoughts. And she asks, is it possible that law enforcement did not want to expose an active undercover operation by sharing BK's involvement, or they didn't want to admit that they inadvertently hired someone would do this type of crime? We know that BK was seeking other types of work with law enforcement since his arrival in Washington, and he had experience setting up security systems. It might also explain some of the many trips he made to Moscow and the surrounding areas. As a former drug addict, he would be useful to law enforcement. It might also explain why they would not include the theft of the sister's cell phone to support his previous drug habit. So many questions left unanswered in this case.
Yeah, I thought my original thought was that I eventually came to. It wasn't my original thought. Strike that. But when trying to make sense of the gag order, what I finally thought was, I wonder if it's sealed because there's a bunch of confidential informants involved, and they can't. I mean, I don't know. It seems like Molly was a confidential informant. I think she was. We haven't had confirmation, but so I've thought of that. I mean, I thought that maybe Bryan Kohberger was, working for law enforcement. It might have crossed my mind, but I have no idea because we don't know. I mean,
well, he had a master's degree. He was working on his PhD, but he had a master's degree. So
yeah.
Nothing's out of the question. Nothing is out of the question. Jody Roy Anand, number 3, says the whole case against Brian was a smokescreen from the beginning with 53 terabytes of information. Was it 53 or 63? I forget now.
I forget. Something.
There were 2 videos of Molly McMichael leaked just weeks before the plea deal was accepted of her in police custody. One where she stated she was friends with Bill Thompson, and another just a few days before Brian took the plea of her stating she was going to testify. She saw Brian there that night. From what I have seen, her second statement is not in any of her police interviews about the case. Here's another instance where things that were said have no basis in the actual documents. There is some speculation of the defense's secret witness was a first responder fireman who was shot and killed. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Shortly before Brian took the plea, this is, however, speculation, and I have never seen a name or link. So at least this fine commenter is saying, okay, this is a thought, but I admit that it's speculation. We're not going down in the tunnels in this episode or on this channel. We're basing, thoughts that people have, reasonable thoughts, because there's so many holes in the documentation that's out there. The secrecy around this case is highly suspect. The fact the case was initially rendered a matter of national security is puzzling at the least. So far, from the reports I have seen, we have not been presented with one thread of evidence the prosecution and law enforcement claim to have. One person who was speaking with Brian before the plea stated Brian had said he was tired of the threats to his family and legal team. I've read that, but I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think one of the reasons given for it being sealed was a number of reasons, and I think in the code section it might have mentioned a matter of national security, but I don't remember that too clearly.
All right, we'll check on that. On that. Number 2.
This is from Grammar Angel. I better watch my grammar. After reading the list of the autopsy photos and the list of wounds, I am even more convinced that the amount of noise, yells, thrashing, and furniture being pushed about would not have gone unnoticed by either Dylan or Bethany. I also no longer believe the CC video that has the single thump and barking dog is reflective of what was going on in that house. No way, no how. If anyone can read those lists of wounds and think these victims just laid there motionless and silent while the attacks were taking place, they are delusional.
Yeah, well, that goes back to the probable cause affidavit, which alleged and was signed by Brett Payne and others. You know,
Yeah,
they said, they were sleeping. Nuh-uh. No, they weren't. No, there's no way.
the list
Didn't
of
happen.
wounds. Yeah, the list of wounds is horrible.
Yeah, maybe we should get into that more. I know other people have commented about it. We do our episodes once a week with a midweek episode, and so we just don't have time to get into all the details, but that's why I do watch other stuff. Number one, our final comment for this episode is from Maria Susanna Fortis. Hope I said all that right. Hello, guys. Thank you again for your excellent work. Keep on the case, please, until the truth comes out. I would like to ask if you know somebody who will attend the course of PSI-RAY. Is there any way to know what he will share about the case? I think that all of us are very interested in it. Yolie, my understanding is that the attendance is limited to law enforcement and that people like us wouldn't be allowed in. That's my understanding. Is that yours?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
I would love to go. I would love to go. I don't have any law enforcement credentials. I'm not making any bones about, and I'm not going to lie about being law enforcement because I'm not.
I wonder if you could audit the course, like just sit in it. Just, you know, I know that in college, back in college, people would sometimes get permission to audit the course and just sit through it to see what it was like.
Yeah, I remember people in my college doing that also. I remember people in my college, auditing classes that were taught by people who really knew their stuff. And it was worth it to go there for free, and you don't get any credit. But what I would really like, and I know they're not going to do this, I would love it if they would stream it or make it available for a fee. I would pay a nominal fee to sit down and watch it, but my guess is that they won't do that.
Well, I'm going to try and find out. We'll see.
Yeah, me too. I'm sure it's pretty proprietary, and I would love it. I would love to see PSI-RAY speak. I would love to hear what he has to say about. Part of that class was talking about social media and its interaction with law enforcement investigations, and how law enforcement needs to, rethink investigations now that there are, internet sleuths out there. And I just think, and the Kohberger case was one of the cases specifically listed. So
Yeah.
I'd like to make this little plea that, and we always mention at the end of these episodes that we can't forget the Idaho 4, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. So we always put that in. And the thing that I was going to say is that if someone who goes to that PSI-RAY conference would like to speak to us, I would promise to protect your confidentiality. I used to be a reporter, and we reserved and respected the confidentiality of sources. I had a index file back then. We used, I still use my index cards. I still have a Rolodex on my desk. I bet there are people out there that don't even know what a Rolodex is. But anyhow, I had cards with names of sources that was mine, and I could call people and get information from. And so if somebody who's going to go to that would like to speak to us either confidentially or not, I would be happy to just talk to you. We have to confirm that you did go there, but
Yeah.
once we get over that little hurdle, I just think it'll be an interesting thing.
Right. And PSI-RAY still hasn't spoken out about the Kohberger case, so it would be interesting to see what he has to say in terms of what law enforcement can learn from that case.
Yeah, it'd be fascinating, especially since the judge kind of blasted him.
Oh.
And
You know, that thing, you know, I have such mixed feelings about that whole, another episode. We'll talk about it.
okay.
Another.
Another episode. But in this episode, if you've been with us this long and you like what we're doing, I would like to have two characters from the Karen Reed case explain to you that you could subscribe for free.
Pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Ask it differently. I'm going to allow that.
Well, you know now because you follow. You pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Did you get one for free?
Yes. I was not paying to any social media.
All right, Mr. Brennan.
Sorry, I have just a few more questions.
It's denied.
I was not paying to any social media.
Okay.
Thank you, Lucky, and thank you, Hank, for helping us to ask our viewers who enjoy watching us whether they agree or not. I know you're out there. Push the subscribe button, push the like button, push them all. We like that. I have an idea for an emoji this time if people have been with us all the way through, and that is a lucky charm, lucky charm, or a horseshoe, because of Lucky helping us here.
Okay.
What are
That's
your
a good
closing
one.
thoughts? You have any closing
My
thoughts?
closing thoughts are it's going to get interesting as more information comes out. Because we're now getting into the motions in limine and evidence that was wanting to be included. You know, so we're going to get to see what that evidence is, like the exhibits that are sealed. Hopefully.
My closing thought is that there is a big distinction between conspiracies and questions. If somebody comes out and says they think somebody came up through the tunnels and did this, that's their channel. That's a conspiracy. If there are people out there that say, you know, there were some people that had motivation and it was all about whatever, that's a conspiracy. Totally different from the fact that there are many people, including the two of us, a lot of other, people with heads on their shoulders, and many of our commenters who just simply look at the documents and look at the facts and look at the case and look at the probable cause affidavit and say, something ain't right here. So don't brand us as conspiracy theorists. Don't
Right.
brand us as people that are, out there saying crazy stuff. And, we had fun with the tunnels. We really had fun. Lainey and I would run those videos of people, in the tunnels. But that's how crazy we thought all of that was.
Yeah.
However, under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, we have every right to be reasonable. And, both of our reputations are on the line here. We're both licensed attorneys. And so I think I know we both respect that. And we want to retain our credibility with the rest of the legal community, because I do know that people in the legal community watch us. I know that they do. They watch us. Sometimes they comment. Sometimes I just hear comments from other people. So we're not going to go down into the tunnels. And this isn't a conspiracy channel. We will provoke thought, though. We will do that. I make no bones about that.
Yeah. And when it's obvious that the documents, that the evidence is, it's contradictory, and you don't have an explanation as to why that is, or how they reconciled this information, how the police reconciled this information, it kind of leaves a question, it does, leaves a question.
Valid questions.
And just because
So-
he pleaded guilty, I mean,
That's not a confession.
yeah, well, and it does, why can't we question something if he's pleaded guilty? What, are we not allowed to question anything just because he pleaded guilty?
And again, he did plead guilty, but he never confessed. If you think I'm picking nits or making a distinction that's without a difference, go to Black's Law Library, look it up. I talked about it in a previous episode. I'm not going to mention it again, but there's a big, major, earth-shattering difference between a bald plea of guilty on a piece of paper that some law clerk wrote citing all the laws, and an actual confession which discloses information
Right.
confirming that the individual who's charged with an event actually has details that he can articulate that prove and confirm that he was involved in it. So Anyhow, having said all of that, let us know down in the comments. We've mentioned a couple of things that we haven't done on this channel about this case. Let us know, as you have in the past, what other cases you want us to cover. We did Mickey Stein's. A lot of people were very interested in that case. We did the Long Island serial killer. Meh, people weren't that interested in that case. I know there's other cases, so let us know not only what other cases you'd like us to cover, but also what we haven't done. There's like Yolie was mentioning before, there have been a couple of things we have not covered here.
Yeah.
And so we'll do it.
Okay.
We'll do it. All right. Have a great weekend. Be nice, be kind, especially in our comment section. Be nice to other people. If you disagree, please don't call them names. Just tell us, how it is that you disagree, why you disagree, what law, what facts, and everything else. But having said all of that, have a good one. Whether you are in the grocery store, the gas station, or anywhere else, please remember to be kind to people. You don't know what they're going through. And the same goes for our comment section. We want you to comment, but be nice, be kind, be positive if you can. And thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one.